The reason for why they are happy is because of the success that the Locarno Pact meeting had, because the British, Germans, Italians, French, and Belgians all came to an agreement regarding political topics like reparation, rural occupies, selective security, disarmament, and hyperinflation of the Rentenmark. The details to which they had agreed upon in this meeting were the continuation of the Anglo-American Agreement, where they wanted the U.S. to keep monitoring the loser of World War I and make sure the militaries doesn't exceed the restrictions. German delegates shown happy here because of the agreement of collective security that France agreed to. In this agreement, France agreed to not invade and occupy German land because they missed a due date for paying the reparations that they owe. Collective security was also a push for smaller armies in Europe, especially within proximity to France. People leaving the Locarno meetings in the 20s look happy and look as if they just solved all future global conflict, which if one looks half a decade down the road, sure it seems as though. There was economic growth all throughout Europe, and there was better diplomacy than anyone could have hoped for. But after that, the Locarno Pact wasn't really worth the time spent into it. The USA's economy crashed, which devastated more than just the US. Global markets around the world went into a depression as well. All the while, Germany was rebuilding its strength so that it can have influence in revising the pact for their own favor. Almost everything that had been agreed upon at Locarno and signed in London. Walking out of the Locarno meetings must have felt good for the French. They had made some key pacts with Czechoslovakia and Poland in case of an aggressive Germany. Also, they'd locked Germany into paying their war reparations, and an agreement came along during the meeting making sure that the US would hold up to their agreement with Britain. So France walked away from Locarno feeling good about the security of their own country for the near future. Also, at the meeting, the beginning of the Kellogg-Briand Pact had begun that eventually was signed by 65 nations. This made wars played on defense permissible, so the person getting attacked wouldn't get in trouble from other nations. The Germans were unwilling to pay the reparations that they were prescribed, and the public of Germany was not happy that its new government, Weimar's regime, was even there at the peace meetings. However, Weimar and his regime felt it necessary to show the world that Germany did not want any more trouble and wanted no world to be at peace. All nations at the meeting were pushing for disarmament, but nothing really occurred from it. It was merely seen as a good, optimistic idea that might be a reachable goal down the road, as nobody wanted to put their guns down so quickly after a global war. The beginning of the Kellogg-Briand Pact had begun that eventually was signed by 65 nations. This made wars played on defense permissible, so the person getting attacked wouldn't get into trouble from other nations. All nations at the meeting were pushing for disarmament, but nothing really occurred from it. It was merely seen as a good, optimistic idea that might be a reachable goal down the road, as nobody wanted to put their guns down so quickly after a global war.